Hey everybody, in this video, Sam Harris insists that the Bible should be treated with the same amount of respect as witchcraft is. But is he right? We break it down in this here reaction video to the conversation between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson. If that sounds interesting to you, I'm not going to hold you up anymore. Let's just get right into it.
In the moral landscape, you lay out this pathway. There's the bad life and there's the good life. Right? And you described what they were, and the bad life is a variation of hellish circumstances, and the good life is a variant of hypothetically the life that we would like to lead. And your conception is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, your conception is that the...
Always a good thing to do when you're articulating the opponent's position, invite them to correct you. Basic civility stuff. I know this sounds basic, but, people still have trouble with it today, unfortunately, and it really disrupts the logos, really. Disrupts speaking in truth.
The proper pathway forward, so that would be the moral endeavor, is to move away from the bad and towards the good.
Yeah, insofar as we understand which way is up, yes.
Yes.
The basic claim is that we can be right or wrong with respect to our beliefs there.
True. We don't...
You can't really, though, right? Because, again, good and bad are somewhat subjective. The good life and the bad life are not things that are able to be proven, because you can't prove what good means. You can't prove it scientifically anyway. You can't prove what bad means. I mean, this is the Aesop problem. The Aesop problem is very, very old. I'm not breaking new ground here. I wish I was. I'm not. So the idea that you can be definitively wrong about whether or not you're moving towards the good life or the bad life isn't really true unless you presuppose and assume what the good life and the bad life are. Peterson's going to point out why that's a little bit of a problem for Harris, I think.
Necessarily know how to do that in an unerring manner, and we could subject that to approximation correction along the way, and we should, but we can outline the broad scheme, which is progress away from hell towards something that's positive. Yes. Okay, so I would say that there's an implicit claim in that you should sacrifice everything in you that isn't serving that to that. And I would say that that's essentially the same claim that's made in Christianity.
Well, again, that is I understand the impulse to up-level these barbaric, ignorance-derived beliefs, right?
This is the thing with Harris. I talked about this in the bit with Shapiro, too. Sam Harris can say that they're up-leveling the religion. He can say that it's really barbaric and you're just reading it overly charitably. He can say that, but nobody has to believe that. That's the thing, right? Because I am of the opinion that when you have a book and you have a belief system that is this old and that has had this much of an impact of the world and has existed substantially in the Western civilization, which I think the Western civilization is good, basically, you should read it charitably if you can. I think it's deserved. I think it deserves it. That's kind of my read. And whether or not you believe that it deserves it, you certainly can't just assume that it's being read up. Like, Harris says that, and I guess it makes sense because he's the more atheistic type, but it's not such a obvious proposition that you're reading it up. Many religious scholars would disagree. Like, a big part of religious interpretation is that the interpretation adapts and God meant for it to adapt. So you kind of have to deal with that when you're talking about how the interpretations are completely made up or overly charitable. Like, he just says this kind of thing a lot, and it's just... my real response is just, okay, says who? You, Sam Harris? You're telling me that we're up-leveling it as opposed to you down-leveling it, right? So it's not such a simple thing to say, something like that.
To something that is morally, that is interesting and palatable in the current context. And I understand you can do that. My concern there is you can do that with everything. I mean, you could do it with witchcraft. Why not do the exact same thing you're doing with religion to the history of witchcraft? Witchcraft is as well
Well, modern witches would do that. So that's a perfectly valid...
Right, but guess what? Modern witchcraft does not ring with the same moral truth to most people. Even up-leveled modern witchcraft wouldn't work, I don't think, to base a society off of. If anybody wants to try, if somebody wants to go to an island, up-level modern witchcraft as much as you want and try this, go ahead. Good luck. I don't think you're going to be able to base a society off it. So, and that's the thing. Witchcraft has never been able to support a society. Christianity has. So Christianity kind of has the rep that it somewhat deserves the charitable interpretation, while witchcraft has never held up a society as far as I'm aware, although maybe I'm wrong. And therefore, it would be more of an up level to read it charitably, because just the historical record, like, just seriously, it's just kind of like pointing at scoreboard. It's like Christianity did a lot of this stuff. I mean, some of it was bad, but a lot of it was good, or was around when the good stuff happened. And witchcraft was kind of like 0 points on the board, essentially. So he's conflating these two things when he really shouldn't. And it's also, this is testable. And I think that if you tried it, I think witchcraft, even up-leveled, would not support a society the same way that Christianity, as modernly interpreted, can, and often does. So he can say you can do it with either thing, but just because you can do it with either thing doesn't mean it will have the same practical results, which indicates an actual difference in the level of truth on a level of metaphysics in terms of the truth that you should live your life by to get good results. So I don't really like that conflation. That's not a great point by Harris. And he usually does make good points, even though I disagree with him a lot. I don't think that one's particularly good.
Right, that should be of concern. I mean, there are reasons why we don't want to endorse modern witchcraft, right?
Look, absolutely. And so one of your
I mean, I'm not talking, and modern witchcraft currently exists. I mean, you go to Africa, people are hunting albinos for their body parts because they believe in sympathetic magic, and kids get killed as witches. So this belief endures in certain pockets of humanity, and we're...
Right, okay, so let me correct myself. There are some societies, sure. Like I said, I can be wrong about things. I know. It's incredible for somebody on YouTube to admit that they can be often wrong. Welcome. Being conservative makes you somewhat humble. Anyway, notice that those pockets of humanity never got off the ground. Now, that's for a variety of reasons. I'm not just saying because they believed in witchcraft they never, grew, but I'm just saying the areas that are big have the religions that are more... probably have the belief systems that are a more effective way of living your life by. Judaism, Christianity, even Eastern religions. Confucianism is not really religion, but Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, stuff like that. And again, it's not perfect because there's a million different historical factors that can cause the growth and rise or fall of nations. But again, the point remains is that because Christianity just has a better track record, just because the historical scoreboard for its success at creating and maintaining civilizations is better, then it stands to reason that it's the metaphysical truth in terms of are these good principles to live your life by is more likely to be accurate. It's more likely to be true because it supported better, bigger, more enduring civilizations. It's more likely to be true that the religion is good to live your life by and therefore deserves more charitable readings. That's my approximation anyway.
I just think at a certain point you have to acknowledge that some ideas are not only wrong, but their effects are disastrous or have been disastrous or will likely be, even if good in certain circumstances, will likely be disastrous in the future. And then we shouldn't be hostage to these ancient memes. We shouldn't have to figure out how to make the most of the worst idea that anyone's ever had, which is you should sacrifice your firstborn child to a being you've never seen.
Very funny, Sam. But again, he snuck something in there. I don't know if you noticed. The worst ideas you've ever seen. Worst according to what metric? Certainly not an objective metric, right? Certainly Sam wouldn't say that. So again, even when you're trying to debunk the dogmatism, even when you're trying to debunk the moral assumptions, it still gets slipped in there a little bit saying these ideas are worst, we shouldn't try to make them better. But again, he's assuming a worse and a better, and you can't prove that, man. You're making assumptions about the good way to live your life and the bad way to live your life, and you don't think you should tolerate things that lead to the bad, Like, this feels very close to religious morality, man. I'm not saying that he's like only pretending to believe what he believes. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm simply pointing out this observation that these two things are very eerily similar. And personally, I'd like to talk about that. So yeah, put it in the comments. See you next time. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that reaction video. If you did, drop a like and please consider subscribing to see more. If you didn't, tell me why. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I want to have these conversations. If you want to see the rest of my content or explore the broader Pangburn universe that I'm a part of, click one of the buttons that should be floating around my head right about now. And as always, I hope to see you all out there engaging in the war of ideas.